name is Dustin. If you have any questions along the way, just go ahead and ask. I'm going to be giving you some sample cuttings of various types of lavender, tell you about the different uses for them, generally how this farm got started, and some other things like that. So I'm going to start you off with one of these Spanish lavenders right here. Overall, there are 3 base types, generally classified as either an English, French, or Spanish lavender. On our property, we have a little over 20 different varieties of lavender. In the world, there are actually well over 200. That's just a general name like English, French, or Spanish. A lot of people refer to them by their botanical name. For example, Spanish lavender is called Lavandula stoichus. Primary varieties used for like bath and body products or aromatherapy are ones either called Lavandula angustifolia or Lavandula officinalis. Those 2 types, if you ever read on a label, are one of the few types that have that medicinal quality in the oil. Most other varieties are hybrids that will actually not have that medicinal quality meant just for scent. And these varieties, you can actually smell the difference. It has a little more of a camphorous note. There's a slight sharpness to the oil. Unfortunately, right now is not the main blooming season for lavender. That is generally during the summer months. For us, that'll start around mid-May. That's when we see a lot of new healthy growth in the foliage. Small buds popping up around June, and peak purple season is from July through maybe early September. So that's our main harvest season as well. So this variety here, Spanish lavender called Q Red. One thing I want you to do to fully experience the lavender is go ahead and pinch the buds. Well, you can eat it too if you want. All varieties of lavender are edible. It is considered an herb. It's very closely related to things like rosemary. This field that I just picked from, this is a new planting project we started just over a year ago. I'm starting from 3-inch pot starts. This field to the left, we call the Lavender Labyrinth. Has about 8 different types of lavender, alternates between Spanish and English lavender, also starting from 3-inch pot starts. So now as long as you have the right conditions for lavender, they can grow really well and fairly quickly. All lavender generally needs is full sun, moderate watering, which if you are doing it manually about 1 to 2 times a week should be more than adequate. And one of the most important things is having adequate drainage in the soil. Often people first start growing lavender and they see it's not doing so well. Almost everyone's immediate reaction is to give it more water, and that can be for any plant. But lavender is so prone to root rot without proper drainage. The water pools, the plant just molds and dies. So if you have tried growing lavender and guilty of overwatering it, you'll notice the center of the plant starting to turn black, basically molding there. So this is another Spanish lavender. You can see it has the same general shape, kind of, I like to describe it as a flowery pineapple, purple pineapple.
It's beautiful.
So this one is called Autoquas. Notice the different shades of color, slightly different lengths. So going on the opposite side here, now we're going to get into the French lavender. This one's commonly known as Lavandula dentata. You can see the sign right there. One of the key differences with this variety is in the foliage. If you look closely at the leaves, they have a serrated leaf pattern. And it's unique to this variety only. So even if this was all pruned back with no foliage, no buds, you can tell the difference with the leaves alone. I know there's a lot to cut from, but one thing I want you to take from is the difference in the aroma and how soft it is. Texturally, it's very different as well. This one we call gray French lavender, which we do use for a couple of our culinary products, our lavender scones and our lemonade. You can pinch off the buds off of this and you notice a little more of a citrusy herbal note to it. Elevation. And we're at about 4,000 feet, which is right on the bottom end of the cloud line. And this happens practically daily. Whereas the wind shifts, the clouds get pushed down into this area. We get a nice little misting from the clouds. Cool. So that's our natural irrigation right there.
They like it.
So for people who deal with clay-like soil, they often have to amend it either with sand, perlite, or something to make it more airy and drain. But us, we did not add any new soil. This is all natural soil right here. Very nice powdery soil in this area, so it's really good drainage.
Do you have lots of worms?
Yes. Every time we dig it up, sometimes we kill them because we're digging holes and popping up. But that's also a good sign.
And that's why it's like silky soil. Yes,
yeah,
because
yeah.
of the worms.
The only thing is that this type of soil and a good downpour could potentially create a lot of runoff. So you often need, a ground cover to help hold the soil in place. So once these plants fill in, they're gonna have the roots spread. It's gonna hold a lot of the soil in. But for a lot of the newer areas, we're starting to compact it with mulch. Helps keep the soil in place and also minimize the weeds poking through, so it's a little less maintenance for the gardeners in the long run.
And you produce your mulch right here on the property?
We buy it from a guy outside of us on Maui.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he has this whole thing of eucalyptus that he just kind of breaks down and spreads out. So that's what most of this is. So this is got some nice light blue hydrangea. What's pretty amazing about these flowers is that they can greatly change color just by tweaking the pH in the soil. So the more acidity in the soil, the more of a saturated bluish purple, and the more alkaline, the more pink. It's pretty interesting is that majority of the hydrangea we have on our property, we did not mess with the pH of the soil, but depending on where it is, it'll be a different saturation of blue. Some other interesting plants that we have here, you notice as we walk around, there are a lot of plants that continue along with that purple or lavender theme. So we have the hydrangea with the bluish purple color. We have these really nice hedges called chibichina. The flowers are called Princess Gloriana. While they may be beautiful to look at, the plant itself is potentially invasive. In areas that receive a lot of rain, places on Maui like Haiku or Hana, this will spread like a weed and take over all the native foliage. So not too many people like this plant. But the reason why it's brought up here, aside from its purple color, is that it has a fairly extensive root system. So it's used as natural erosion prevention. So it helps hold this trench structure in place. This little cottage was the original gift shop. We first opened to the public in 2002. Originally, only about 6 acres of land. Advertising got around just by word of mouth.
Oh, wow.
So we got a lot less traffic than we do now. It started off with our founder Lee inviting a lot of old grandmas and grandpas in retirement homes up here just to have a good time. And they would kind of talk to their kids, tell them about this awesome place. And they would come up here, so it just gradually spread. And as we got more popular, we needed a bigger space. So our current gift shop, it's our founder's old house. He gutted and reformatted it, and he built his new residence right next door, which is this building ahead of us here. Right above us here, this was started by our founder's son, Koa Chang. Our founder, Ali'i, unfortunately, he passed away about 5 years ago. So now his son is running the business. So it was a very tough transition for Koa, not only dealing with his dad's passing, but he wasn't a gardener by trade. So he had to learn a lot of things and very quickly. So that first year, he had to learn how to take care of various plants, learn the business side of running the farm, which I'm sure was very tough to learn, just all of a sudden. During this though, he really wanted to continue his father's legacy. He grew up on the farm, so there's a lot of sentimental attachment to the place. So within the first year, he was sort of tested because there was a rain that swept through this area, and it lasted for about 2-3 days. Really heavy rain. So all the exposed dirt from the upper fields created all this runoff. Destroyed all the old protea flowers in this field, all the lavender, left about 2 feet of mud where we're standing. Fortunately, I wasn't working here at the time when that happened, so I wasn't involved in the cleanup. But after that happened, they dug trenches on the top and middle to help divert a lot of future runoff. So we put the ground cover in to help hold it, like the geraniums you can see halfway up and the chibichina that I talked about earlier on the very top. So Koa, deciding on what to do with this area since it was destroyed, decided to kind of change it up a little bit and diversify what we have available. So instead of putting back the protea, he put in all these citrus trees in the fields. So this is one of the few areas in the property that does require irrigation. It's on a timed drip system, so we don't have to waste our time watering the trees. Which is when Koa inherited the business, he started putting these fruit trees, which inspired him to expand on what we have available. Originally, we were more or less a botanical garden. We had the lavender, the protea flowers, and a bunch of other exotic plants. So behind these juniper trees here, he also put in a vegetable garden. We started this maybe about 4 years ago. The first 2 years, we were a little gung-ho about trying, a bunch of different vegetables. So we didn't, change out the soil or anything like that. So developed all this bacteria inside, started doing really poorly. So we started doing composting. We actually brought in hens to collect the manure to be used for fertilizer later on. We also collected a whole bunch of eggs, which was really nice because we had about 7 hens at the time. They produced about 1 to 2 eggs a day, so it was life. In 1999, lavender ended up being named Herb of the Year. So all these articles started coming out, different uses for them, bath and body products, culinary applications, aromatherapy, and he got really excited about the potential commercial use of lavender. So he did further research about different types used for various products, ordered about 500 lavender plants, and landscaped them throughout the property. As we got bigger in name, he just propagated new starts off of the cuttings of those old plants. And to date, I'd say we have just under maybe 10,000 individual lavender plants spread throughout the property, just through propagation off of cuttings. So yeah, it kind of just started off from there.
Do you
Yes.
process the lavender here for the products that you sell?
We
in
have a
the shop?
distill on the property, but not for our products, just for demonstration purposes.
Okay.
Because we're such a small property, we're just 13.5 acres. It's really, not enough to fully sustain all of our products. So we are dependent on partnerships with different vendors to help create our products. We have over 40 partnerships with various vendors, most of which is local vendors. Some are located on the Pacific Northwest that help distill our organically certified oil. When Mr. Chang first started this whole business, he was looking for the certified organic distillery, but there's none in Hawaii at the time. So there's some, I believe, in Oregon that he partnered up with, but he just kind of stayed with them over the years.
I do have a question.
Yes.
So what is your marketing techniques here?
Well, our founder's business model was generally to, kind of create these partnerships with various vendors, so everyone could kind of reciprocate the business and everyone would benefit that way. So he tried to keep it within the state as much as possible.
Yeah. So he's helping the local economy.
Yeah, exactly. So like, for example, our jams and jellies are made by Jams and Jellies.
Okay.
Our scones are made by Jeannie the Bread Lady just down the road. So, for example, a lot of our culinary stuff is made locally.
Okay. So they buy your product, then they create a new product, you market it here in
Yep.
the gift shop, and it's all the business makes a profit.
Generally, it's through the products alone.
Okay.
But we do like things on the side, just at least to, again, sell the products. But some events that we tend to, for example, is the Ag Fest, as well as the Seaberry Craft Fair.